our second episode of the Kickin Show, and we're going to kick it off with, I guess, talking about this past weekend. Obviously, at Darlington, there was some fun in the final few laps of both the Xfinity and the Cup Series race.
That was honestly, at least for the Xfinity Series race, I was not expecting Brandon Jones to close in the way he did the final few laps and essentially steal that victory. In the Cup Series, with Chase Elliott, Martin Truex Jr. essentially having their own demo derby in front of the field, it's not a surprise Harvick got the win, but I'm also more surprised that Austin Dillon almost closed in on him. I think it was the final two laps, and he actually was, 2 car lengths away on the final lap?
Yeah.
And you realize Austin Dillon, like, had he had another lap, he probably would have put a good move on Harvick to potentially – I'm not saying he would have won, but, I mean, who knows?
We may have had a repeat of Truex and Chase.
Oh, and not only that, but if he won that race, that's 3 crown jewels for Austin Dillon already in his career.
That's right.
So,
and he was close. He was big time close, and he would have wrecked Harvick to win that race. There is a little bit,
hands down.
There is a little bit of bad blood there too, you know. So.
Just a little.
That's why he left Richard Childress Racing years ago.
Right, exactly.
Dillon
right.
kids.
That is that Dillon kid is why he left. Rich Children's Racing or something, I think. But that's what I was told. That is not what I think, because Richard Childress is a good friend of mine, okay? And Austin and Whitney are good friends of mine. So, but I think that's kind of
Austin.
I'm just being very clear here as looking to the camera. That was what other people said.
Well, I want to get more in depth into that, because I think that kind of leads into some questions we can talk about. But some other big news from this week. Obviously, Matt Kenseth saying on Sirius XM earlier, quote, "It's probably more than likely I will not be racing again next year." So what do you guys think about that? Obviously, Matt Kenseth stepping in earlier this year, really not really during the season. It was more during the break when coronavirus hit hard during March and May. After Kyle Larson let that racial slur kind of slip on iRacing. So what are your guys' thoughts on that? And let's look back on Matt Kenseth too. How do you think he's performed this year?
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think he's gonna be back next year. I mean, I've always gotten, at least these last couple years, I feel like he's kind of picky choosy with the rides that he's open to doing, and he's definitely earned that right. I mean, obviously he can do whatever he wants, but if you're around a sport for 20 years or so in the Cup Series, I mean, you don't want to go out there, and I don't think he's really interested in helping a small team at this point, which I do feel like he can offer a lot of, obviously, expertise and experience, and just he's not somebody who really tears up cars, so that can help a small team. But I think at this point, he's looking for rides like Chip Ganassi Racing. And I know myself, I've been surprised by his performance in a negative way. Hasn't been too stellar. I don't think he's impressed Chip Ganassi that much as well. He had that great run at Indianapolis, finished second. Darlington, he started off with the top 10. I'm like, oh man, this is going to be great. I feel like he's going to be right there with Kurt Busch, maybe make the playoffs if he can get a win. But it just hasn't gone that way. So I don't think we're going to see him back next year. If his performance was near what Kurt was doing this year, I think I definitely would have been open-minded to that, and I think he would have too, and maybe Chip as well, but it just hasn't been working out this year.
I want to say the lack of practice probably is a big factor as well for Kenseth, especially because he has not driven this particular package compared to Kurt Busch or any of the other drivers for that matter. So that's definitely hindered his performance. Outside of that, I do want to say he will probably be racing next year some late models like how he has been the past few years, but I don't expect him in at least a Cup car, let alone anything NASCAR related, unless it's a Chip Ganassi or maybe if down in the truck series like GMS or Kyle Busch Motorsports something similar to what Greg Biffle, David Reagan, Trevor Bayne have been doing recently.
Yeah. I don't know. You know, here's the thing. He came back because they needed him. It was a good ride. He was going to re-team up with Kurt. You know, those guys work Roush together. They're friends. They work well together. But Kurt, his performance has been good. And Matt's, you know, whether it be crew chief or crew, I don't think Matt Kenseth forgot how to race, but something's different. And it's been a few years since he's been in a car full time. So I just don't think that he adapted well to it. And, you know, why go out there and be miserable? The guy can go and, you know, hang out and do some one-offs if he wants to, like Biffle does, or he can go out and just never come back like Carl Edwards.
Yeah. And I think Matt Kenseth too. I think, you know, Seth, you brought up a really good point with no practice. That's something I think Matt Kenseth, had he had that, he would have been much more competitive, because we know that Matt Kenseth is a winner. I mean, that's why Chip Ganassi wanted him in that 42. He, quote, hashtag I like winners, right? So I would have loved to see how Matt would have done during a normal season, and see what he could have done. But it was still cool. I know some fans really love the nostalgia of seeing Matt Kenseth back behind the wheel again. So that was definitely something I know a lot of the fans cherished, especially those who were fans of Kenseth during his entire career. So cool. The next one I have really is the other big announcement that happened earlier today, actually. But Jimmie Johnson announces he's going to be racing IndyCar with Chip Ganassi. Technically part-time, but he's going to be racing all the road courses and street courses for 2021 and 2022 in IndyCar. He's also said in the past that he is open to racing some NASCAR races. But what do you guys think of that? Did that catch you off guard, or?
Honestly, not a whole lot, because as we were saying pre-show while we were talking, it's just another challenge for him. He's a racer. He'll always be a racer. He's accomplished just about everything there is to accomplish in NASCAR, at least in the Cup Series. I think there's only 3 tracks he hasn't won at. He has 7 championships. What else is there for him to accomplish in NASCAR?
An 8th championship.
If he does, well, an 8th championship, yes. But outside that, there isn't a lot left on his Hall of Fame career that hasn't been checked off. If he can go into IndyCar and win somewhere, whether it's a street or a road course, because he's running, I believe it's 13 out of the 18 races that are scheduled, which 13 or will be scheduled, and they're all street and road courses. If he can win there, I don't want to say that would be like AJ Foyt or Mario Andretti or anybody like that kind of territory, but would put him in the same classification to a point of being able to win in both disciplines.
Yeah, and that's really the point I wanted to make, was just how super cool this is, how lucky I feel to see undoubtedly a Hall of Fame driver, one of the greatest of all time, finish out a career that we may never see again. 83, 84 wins, 7 championships. And when he's done, he's like, I'm not done yet. I want to try something else. Nothing gets me more hyped than seeing crossover drivers. You know, we see him every now and then. Juan Pablo Montoya was really a big one, from Formula One, IndyCar, and NASCAR. He got to win in all 3, which is really a rare feat. Dario Franchitti, Danica Patrick, Sam Hornish. I mean,
he didn't do so well.
Most of these guys don't do well, right? But
Marcos Ambrose did, though.
And then you have a handful that do well, but not in the Cup Series. They do well typically either in the Xfinity Truck Series or even the regional series. Patrick Compartier comes to mind up in Canada. Alex Tagliani as well.
Yeah, they did it right. They did part-time Xfinity on road courses, some ovals. I mean, if you look at Dario, Danica, Hornish, Montoya, they got pushed right to full-time Cup right away, and they completely weren't ready for it. So I tried looking at how well they do, but when it comes to those drivers who are interested in making that move and actually getting up off getting up out of what you're doing and actually go out and try it. To me, that's something that's really worth, commendment for us. So I think it'll help further the relationship between NASCAR and IndyCar overall. Jerry mentioned, what Roger Penske's been doing, and I think it's a perfect time to have a driver like Johnson actually make the leap and actually have a driver go from back and forth. So I can't wait to see how he does. It's going to be a fun next couple of years for him.
I don't understand. I don't. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think the most recent driver to hop over, whether it's NASCAR to IndyCar, IndyCar to NASCAR, I think it might have been Connor Daly at Road America either last year or 2 years ago.
Jack Hawksworth did a Xfinity race a couple years ago. Usually it's just.
You could argue James Davison as well, but
yeah.
Equipment-wise, Connor and Jack were in much more competitive equipment than James. No offense to James, he is a talented driver. It's just sometimes the equipment is there, sometimes it's not, unfortunately.
Yeah, and he was with Gibbs in Xfinity, but you're talking the Cup Series now with Rick Ware. Yeah, and that's right.
So my thing is, Roger Penske, the relationship, we talked on pre-show about the relationship. It's obviously good with NASCAR and, IndyCar, but that happened because of Roger. It wasn't good before that, okay? They could say it was, but it wasn't until Roger went in there that we had a doubleheader weekend with IndyCar and Cup Series. I mean, that we talked about it for years, but it took Roger to make that happen. Now with Jimmie going over to Ganassi and with Ganassi's IndyCar program and Ganassi's Cup program, obviously Jimmie can't race for Hendrick because they're going to have 4 teams and you can't have a 5th car. Unless maybe they can do some testing. There may be some caveat in the rule that he might be able to do some one-offs for Rick. But my understanding is 4 teams, 4 cars, that's it. Chip's not going to have 4 cars. But why a guy who's got 7 championships, he's got the world, at his hand, a beautiful wife, great kids, he's got a place in Colorado, why tie up 13, 14 race weekends? That doesn't even count. They actually test and do stuff over there. It doesn't. How much time is he committing by going over to IndyCar and doing that when he could have just stayed in Cup another season and tried to run for an 8th championship?
I think Zach said it best. He's just a racer, man. I mean, look at Jimmie's resume as a whole. I mean, IROC, he's got some outdoor 4-wheel racing with the trucks. He's even done motorcycle racing. So, gosh,
tested Formula One.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're talking about someone who, if you have a motor and wheels on it, heck, Johnson would probably do boat racing. So you don't even have to have wheels.
Rick Hendrick did that once, so just saying. Rick Hendrick used to race boats.
And Jimmie Johnson did release a game, anything with an engine.
That's right. Yeah. I do remember that game. Yeah. So that's just Jimmie. I mean, and that's how some people are. Heck, that's how me and my dad used to be. I mean, we raced motocross when I was younger, and then I bought a go-kart, and now it's 4 wheels. And anything that's got a motor and 4 wheels, I like to race it. Don't tell my wife that.
You drive a Camaro. You drive a Camaro.
I do.
And I've seen you drive on the public streets. You're kind of the slowpoke. You're kind of a granny driver.
Because I'm on the streets. I save it for the track.
Oh, okay.
That's how you catch people off guard.
Have you put that Camaro on the track?
I have not yet, no.
Okay.
I want to. I want to.
Call me when you do, because I heard you drive like a grandma all the time. Not just that I saw you.
Most race car drivers do.
Because
they get all those demons out on the racetrack, so when they get on the highway, they're like, I'm good. I don't have to drive fast.
How'd that work out for Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin and all their tickets?
Okay. All right.
That boys be boys.
Jerry, I'll say this.
Even Dale Jr. said he got tickets speed. Come on.
I'll say this. That infamous one from a few years ago where Kyle was doing 82 or over 100 on
he was going faster
road in Mooresville.
Yeah, he was going faster in that car than I was going when I got stopped leaving the 600 back in May.
Yeah, where he got stopped was probably about 2 or 3 miles up the road from my high school.
There you go.
So, small world.
But here's my thing. Why do you write a NASCAR driver a ticket for speeding if you're worried? Okay, because here's the thing.
Because you want to be the officer in the news article that gave a NASCAR driver a speeding ticket.
Exactly. That's the only reason. And here's why. Because I've got lots of law enforcement friends. Their job as law enforcement is to protect the public and make sure that drivers are safe. Do you really think that a driver who goes 200 miles an hour every weekend is going to jeopardize his safety in a car that only does, 130? I mean, he's not jeopardizing anything unless the car breaks, I mean, the speed is nothing to him. It just didn't. So why be that cop? Why be that cop that wants to write a NASCAR driver a ticket?
Hey, it's just like saying, well, you can go 200 miles an hour, but if you go 56 on a 50-mile-an-hour pit lane speed,
look at the sign. What does that sign say? What does that sign say?
You're
right there.
Yeah.
Speed limit none.
That's right. I have a sign somewhere where it's like it's actually got a picture of an old classic like 70s Camaro.
Well, not them going to be smart here, but speed limit none except for restrictor plates.
Well, the law of physics. The law of physics only let you go so fast.
We no longer have restrictor plates, Seth. You must have missed that memo. we have tapered spacers.
Yeah.
I have a sign that says, if the car is still in control, you're going too slow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about that then. I've actually thought about taking my Camaro out on the track. So I've got Willow Springs just north of me, or Auto Club just south of me with their road course. But that's going to change after our spring 2021 race. Auto Club and NASCAR has announced that they have officially submitted plans earlier this week to San Bernardino County. If you don't know, that is the county just east of Los Angeles County, where Auto Club Speedway is located. And they are rebuilding that from the big 2-mile oval that matches Michigan down to a half-mile track, which is essentially a combination of all three of our short tracks with a Richmond front stretch, a back stretch like Martinsville, and corners like Bristol. So definitely a very weird combination. I almost feel like that kind of combination is like if you asked like a second grader to like draw, if you could make an animal, draw it, and it's got like the tail of one animal, the body of a second animal, and then a head of a third animal.
A chimera. It's a chimera track.
Yeah.
Well, what I was about to say is it's a half-mile version of Pocono.
So no, because it's
made of 3 different tracks.
Yeah. So here's, let me tell you what I learned in staying up all night long last night writing the follow-up story. Because look, all credit to Jeff Gluck and The Athletic. I don't subscribe to it, but Jeff Gluck broke the story about Auto Club Speedway being reconfigured into a half-mile from a 2-mile oval. So. But what no one else did was no one called out to California and talked to any officials. I talked to David Wirt, who is the public information officer for San Bernardino County. And I never knew, this is my learning experience, I thought it was San Bernardino. It's San Bernardino. B-E-R. Yeah, it's got an extra R in it. I was trying, spell check was giving me hell, until 5 a.m. And I'm like, why is this not working? But yeah, that's actually that is the most important thing that I learned from this story was how to spell San Bernardino County. I knew how to spell Fontana. And but no, I mean,
you know how to spell California, right?
I do know how to spell.
Okay, good.
California, Liberal.
There's 2 U's in Auto Club, and there's a space in there. It's 2 words.
It's 2 words.
Yeah, and just for the locals, so you guys know, none of the outside tracks are affected. So you still got the autocross, you still got the backstretch drag strip, you still got the go-kart track, you still got the RC track, and you still got the experience track. outside. And from what I've learned, they are trying to work on making a new road course for all you sport car guys. So that's what I've heard. I haven't gotten any official word yet, just because they haven't. I don't know if they've officially worked on those plans or not. But what do you guys think of that? I know a lot of fans have been screaming more short tracks.
Let me add one thing here, because obviously they need a new road course after what I saw. But this may pique your interest. Victory Lane is going to be in turn 4 outside of the track, and the Cup garages and the Xfinity and truck garages are going to be outside of the track. Cup outside of turn 4 behind Victory Lane, Xfinity trucks over in turn 3. So if you had any questions, if that piqued your interest, then shameless sponsor plug there. Then now you know. And if you go to Kickin the Tires, you can look at the story and blow up. I actually put the entire very large 32-inch JPEG file, and Justin's probably freaking out because of our file size on the server is shooting through the roof. But you can go look at it and you can zoom in and see all of the detail of what the new track configuration is going to look like.
I think it would provide a unique opportunity for the race fans. Granted, already they can go into the garage area, or at least in a normal weekend, with a hot pass or into not Victory Lane, but around Victory Lane. Again, in a normal COVID-less world. But with the garage area on the outside the track, granted, it'll probably still be designated hot pass only for the fans, but some might be able to get closer than they have been able to before to check out the crews, to check out the cars. So that would be an interesting idea. The only question that I've come up with is, as far as getting the cars onto the track, I'm assuming they would have a crossover gate somewhat similar to Martinsville or Bristol on the backstretch.
Might have a tunnel.
With tunnels,
Or might be a tunnel.
I mean, well, look at the tunnel at Richmond. You could literally drive cars through that tunnel if it didn't have a stairs at the other end. Now, one thing that I find interesting is what you said about hot passes and things like that. One thing I learned about at Talladega, there's 2 different passes. There's like the pass that gets you to Big Bill's garage and all the party bar area. And then there's another pass that you buy that gets you into the pits. And one does not do for the other. You have to buy them both if you want to do both experiences. And it's a way that NASCAR and the track can make extra money. As a matter of fact, my understanding is previously when it was ISC and NASCAR and tracks and NASCAR, you bought one from the track and one from the sanctioning body somehow through ticket offices or whatever. Now it's probably all going to be the same, but it's not going to be the same ticket. I guarantee you NASCAR has figured out a way to where they can separate things and put fans in one area where fans can buy access to another area like a Victory Lane or anything else. Because look, it's all about fan experience, and if you want a better experience, obviously you have to pay for it.
I know. I want to say for SMI it's somewhat similar because for being a race fan for years before becoming a media member, you had your choice of hot pass, pit pass, or cold pass. And if you had a hot pass, you could go anywhere. If you had a cold pass, you were limited to the garage area only when it was cold. And if you had a pit pass, you could go to pit road, but you couldn't go to the garage area.
Yeah, cold pass would get you in the garage up to 30 minutes before the cars went on the track, and after 30 minutes from when the time they came off the track. That was a cold pass. Hot pass, obviously, as you said, it's similar to a hard card. You could pretty much go anywhere. Hard card gets you a little bit more access on some issues, and then a pit pass only on pit road, and then you have to leave the ball field and go back up to your seat.
Yeah. So here's a question for you guys. I'll start with you, Zach. Who's going to win the first Auto Club short track race?
Boy. I wish I
spoiled it.
Probably Truex. I don't know. I feel like Truex has been on a roll with these short tracks lately.
But look, it's in 2 years. Come on, we got a year. We got like 18 months before we get a track there, and we don't even know if they're going to do it in April. They may move it to later in the year.
Yeah, it's going to take years. Sport might be completely different at that point.
It'll be,
yeah.
Well, I was going to
2022.
say, if it's 2022, that would also be with the next gen car.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They got to get to work.
Yeah, so I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go with a current veteran because I don't know how well they'll adapt to the next gen car. Yeah. So I'm going to go with William Byron.
Okay. So Jerry, you say Kyle Busch.
I'm saying Kyle Busch, and to Zach's point about them getting to work, as you know, since you live out on the left coast, Justin, y'all have very nice weather all the time, so they can work.
Yeah, not right now.
They can pretty much work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, except for maybe when it rains, like the 3 days a year that it rains.
Yeah, because all 363 days or 362 days, well, if it's a leap year, but all the other days it's fire out here.
Yeah, and that's part of what makes this a pretty good idea. It's part of one of those moments of creativity and ambition for the sport, but they're in an area where I feel like can really use a short track for the National Series and NASCAR. And obviously we kind of had the road course thing going for a little bit, not in California, but just for the sport. We had the Charlotte, Roval, and Daytona and Indianapolis had road courses, and we tried them out this year. And now I feel like we're just starting now to eat into that short track project. And as Jerry said, there's a lot of work to be done on this, not only this one, but future short tracks that might want to kind of copy this idea if it goes well. It's difficult. There's a lot of money involved. I mean, for fans, it's just going to be a $40 ticket or an afternoon on the couch. But for the sport, I mean, you have to take into account the promotional side and the local area, the safety of the track. I mean, it's a lot. It's going to be interesting to follow.
Well, I'll use the term copy loosely. And the main reason why I'm saying that is I'm pretty sure we all know how copying the 1.5 mile tracks went over the years. So
yeah,
not always the best racing. Granted,
wait.
Okay.
Stop. Okay. I read a column in a magazine, online magazine that used to publish like real paper, and now they're only online. I read a column, and it was talking about cookie cutter tracks. Look, Texas Motor Speedway has never been like Charlotte Motor Speedway, and Charlotte Motor Speedway has never been like Chicagoland or Kentucky or anything. All have their own characteristics. They just happen to have the same length. But here's the thing. The fans begged for them, okay? The fans wanted them. And then the investors of the companies wanted them because they could race IndyCar and they could race stock cars and they could race sports cars and they could do everything else. They could do driving schools. It was the perfect length at the time. Things have changed.
Yep.
We get it. But the argument that, oh my God, it's all cookie cutter tracks and we're ran the sport into the ground. Look, the fans got what they wanted. They asked for it back in the day. They got their wish. Now we're changing it, and the fans want short tracks. I actually want road courses. I think NASCAR does well on road courses. I like it. Yeah. It's been, Daytona was great, and the Roval has been great. So
for Cup and Xfinity too, because I mean Xfinity ran the Indianapolis road course too.
Exactly. Awesome. So I've learned one thing in NASCAR, and that is fans are fickle. They have short memories. And then we have media members who pitch a fit and whine and moan and groan about all kinds of things, whether it be a choose cone box or a short track or this or dirt or whatever. But at the end of the day, NASCAR owns this sport. It's their car, it's their ball, it's their track, it's their rules. And if we don't like it, and I get ticked off at them, I'm mad at them right now on something. But you know what? If we don't like it, we can leave. They are bigger than we are. And people need to realize that.
Yeah.
Now, just one thing to add on to that. Some fans were upset and are upset because of the great racing that Auto Club has produced in the past 5 or 6 years or so. What a lot of them are forgetting is that's because of the worn track surface.
Mhm.
It's, I think, the second oldest track surface on the circuit right now.
Yeah,
I think
behind
Atlanta is
Atlanta.
older.
Atlanta.
And it would have to get repaved relatively soon. So it would go from a multi-groove racetrack to a single-groove racetrack. And that awesome racing would go to what we have to a certain point at Michigan or Texas right now.
Well, I will say this. They can trust me from what I've seen at Atlanta, because I was very close to Ed Clark, who's the most recent track president there who retired. I went out there and looked at the track, and he showed me potholes and the things that they would fill that track. They can make a track, obviously, look at Atlanta, they can make a track last a long time.
Well,
And so they can extend the life. But I remember when they wanted to blow Auto Club up. You know, I've been Kicking the Tires, been covering this sport for 20 years. And I remember when it was like, oh my God, I got to go to California for another race. There's 2 of them, you know?
Well, the main difference, though, at least in my mind, the main difference between Atlanta and Auto Club, even though, yes, you can patch Atlanta and you can really make that track surface last a long, long time. The issue with Auto Club that I constantly think of is, even though they're small and they're usually minor, all of the earthquakes that happen in California, I can imagine how brittle the track surface might be. So I'm not sure patching and extending the life of Auto Club.
I don't know. You'll have to ask Justin about that, because he lives like 20 miles from the track.
Am I off base at all, Justin, or
say that again?
Am I off base in thinking that essentially the geology of California plays a factor in whether or not they could extend the life of the current track surface at Auto Club?
I don't know if really extend the life is the right term, because we don't have to deal with a lot of humidity. So the track surface, whenever you lay something down, it'll dry quickly. So if you prepare the foundation right, yeah, you can make the track last a long time. But the only variable with that is all the earthquakes we have out here.
Yeah.
So that would also be a big determining factor. So it wouldn't necessarily be about trying to make the track surface last long enough. It's more about like making sure there's not any major chunks that are like, cracking and stuff like that. And that's where we get the seams in the track. Is really most likely, from my educated guess, and again, that's just a guess, but my guess is those seams are coming from all the earthquakes and different layers of the track, falling at different layers or rising at different layers from all the earthquakes over the years. So it's going to be interesting, especially this last race. The other thing I was kind of half thinking about, because Jerry, you're kind of talking about like, the media members, giving out their opinions, and then fans, obviously NASCAR Twitter being its own universe sometimes. But I think too with the drivers, like they kind of just get into this repetitive cycle with the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this year, shaking up the schedule, going to some tracks that they've never been to before, or being at tracks where they're not usually at those places during that particular season of the year, has thrown a pretty nasty curveball. Not in a bad way, obviously, but it's thrown a pretty wicked curveball to a lot of these teams and provided. I think that alone has provided half of the racing action we've seen this year.
I like seeing drivers uncomfortable.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yes.
I do.
Yes.
It's made for better racing, and look, Kyle Busch is a great race car driver. And we talked about this last week. He and Adam Stevens haven't forgotten how to set up a car, but they don't have time to make it perfect. And it's making it harder on them. And Jimmie Johnson, if you look back at his championships, it was in a different time when the car was different. He made it work in a car that was a lot easier to drive than the car they have now, and they're going to a different car. So, I like seeing drivers have to do this, and work it, because if you're just doing a Sunday drive, what fun is that?
Mm-hmm.
I race and I know I suck, but I do it because I have fun trying to conquer the track. These drivers that are out there right now, it's not a challenge for them. And I'm trying to get a driver on right now. Granted, he's a lower level driver. Hopefully he comes on, but he'll tell you the same thing. There's drivers out there that it's like a Sunday drive for some tracks and some car setups. I like the fact that we don't have practice and qualifying, and we can go out there and they have to actually get on it and learn during the race.
Yeah. I'm all for making this sport the hardest racing series in the world. When it comes to all the races that they run, the 9-month schedule, the playoffs, how difficult it is to make it all the way to the championship. Just throw in tracks. I mean, I want the cars to be the toughest. I want the tracks to be the toughest. I want, when we get down to Phoenix, I mean, even throughout the year, I just want to know that I'm watching the most versatile race car drivers in the world. And with stuff like this, that's what we're going to keep getting.
Yeah, and I think if we're going to keep bragging that we have the best drivers in the world, we're going to need to do exactly what you said, Zach. So, let's talk about this past weekend. So with Cup and Xfinity, two battles for the lead.
One more thing I want to add is one thing about Auto Club Speedway, because there was some question about this. NASCAR submitted their plans for Auto Club Speedway to the Land Use Services Planning Commission for San Bernardino County. When I talked to David Wirt, he told me that they don't know if it actually needs approval. So they're going to review the plans, look at the proposal. Because the land is still being used for racing and its primary use is racing, it may not have to go to a public hearing or a county commissioners or board of supervisors or whatever you guys have out there, because it's still basically a land use of racing. And that is a very good thing, in my opinion, as someone who's covered, hard news government and things like that for a number of years. The less people you get involved in something like this, the faster this project will move along. But he did say NASCAR A wants to keep racing in Southern California, and B wants to get this done quickly, but they built in some time frames for any possible delays.
No, that'll be good. So it'll be interesting to see what happens for sure. Okay, so let's talk about this past weekend at Darlington, third race at Darlington this year, the Southern 500. And we had two different battles for the lead, which resulted in leaders crashing both for the Cup race and the Xfinity race. So what did you guys think of that?
Well, man, I will say that for the past 5 years, probably, the Xfinity race at Darlington has been probably one of my most anticipated races of every year.
Point of order. Zach, you were there at the track. So let's tell everybody, you were in the press box covering the return to Darlington, which was actually the track that kicked us off after COVID pandemic lockdown. So you were there. Yeah.
And it was great to be back. It was kind of like I don't know, it just meant a lot because we've done a lot since then. So just seeing that place again, and I had a much better seat than last time. I wasn't behind the grandstands. I was up in the press box. So when it came to badass races like we saw both days, I was in a perfect spot. I really like this race. I think when it comes to the composite body with the Xfinity cars, they're able to pound the wall and kind of just keep rolling. We saw with Truex, he hit the wall, and that tire didn't last too much longer. It did for Chase. That's kind of just how it works out. Sometimes it's just luck, but I mean, just over the years, I remember Keselowski and Logano going at it in 2017 in the Xfinity race, doing slide jobs on each other. Elliott Sadler won it 1 year, and obviously Briscoe and Kyle Busch just in the May. Now we come back again, and we have another great race, and pretty much saw the same thing in the Cup race. We saw both guys hit the wall, of course, Elliott and Truex, and it was crazy. We really didn't see it coming. I mean, we knew Truex had it won. Basically, he had the best car of the night. Chase was really quick, but 19 was gaining on him, and all he had to do was just execute that pass, get by that 19, and I mean, he was going to be gone with it. And I remember seeing Harvick pass Dillon for third, and just at the back of my mind, I'm like, all right, if it's like yesterday with Brandon Jones sneaking by, that may be a very crucial pass, and it ended up being just that. And one thing that really confused me, though, was Truex's comments afterwards. I mean, he wasn't angry. Chase didn't really seem angry, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. But he pretty much said he expected Elliott to give him that room. You know, like when he got in there, he thought, oh, I'm going to come up. I kind of have him clear. I think he's going to let me in. I'm like, man, I mean, I know Truex is universally known as a very clean driver. He's got that good reputation, but I don't know if that's what he would have done. But, I mean, I think if I'm Chase, I think most drivers aren't going to give it up. The Southern 500 with 15 to go, I don't think you're just going to give him that space.
No.
I'm not giving you a spot.
No.
Well, starting with the Xfinity Series race, you essentially had Brandon Jones playing the role of Dave Blaney, if you think about it, way back when you had Kurt Busch and Ricky Craven going at it, except that day they made it to the line.
And then they crashed.
And then they crashed. But Brandon Jones, he was running a throwback to Toyota's first ever NASCAR championship, the 2003 car that Robert Huffman won the championship in the NASCAR Goodies Dash Series. I'm not sure if any of you saw it, but I want to say it was yesterday. The crew from Joe Gibbs Racing actually surprised Robert Huffman. It's on Landon Huffman's Twitter with the passenger side of Brandon Jones' car.
Oh, no, I didn't.
So I thought that was a classy gift for the person who inspired the throwback, for one. But Darlington stripe and all, even with the composite bodies, from what the looks of it, I don't think they would have been able to fix that particular right side for a future race.
No.
I watched the Xfinity race and the Cup race, obviously, and I knew that that was going to happen, and that they were going to take each other out, and the third place car was in the catbird seat. Mm-hmm. Fast forward to Sunday, I was hoping Austin Dillon would get on Kevin Harvick's ball. Because
he would have gotten there another lap. Because I mean, look in that final turn. Look at how much he gained just in the middle. He had a much better handling car than Harvick. I don't know if Harvick was just trying something different, but when both of them had that clean room there,
I wanted to see anything different. I actually went back and listened to the audio after our pre-show. I listened to it real quick. Harvick actually may have had a tire going down, which that would explain why Austin Dillon was able to catch him as quickly as he did in as few laps as he did.
Yeah, he did try the bottom lane for that final corner. I know you mentioned that earlier, and you see him going down low. He did. Brennan Poole was in front of him, but quite a bit, so it wasn't really due to that. But he was running lower, and Dillon was coming up on that outside. And if he was just a few car lengths closer going into turn 3, he would have been there. And who knows what he would have done? I think he would have probably right-hooked him or done something, because he's the ultimate underdog. I didn't have him advance into the round of 12. I think most people didn't. So he had that on his mind, I think.
Well, speaking of advancing to the round of 12, an interesting note that someone else basically found, no driver who has entered the playoffs with 0 bonus points or stage points, playoff points, however you want to word it, has ever advanced out of the round of 16. The only driver this year that entered the playoffs without any playoff points is Matty Benedetto.
Yeah.
So if that trend continues, that doesn't bode well for him.
He's my dark horse to win the championship.
Well, before we get into that, I want to ask one thing about Chase, because this is the second Darlington race he's been crashed out of. Remember earlier this year where Kyle Busch misjudged?
He's young. You'll get over it.
He gets over stuff well.
Do you think he's going to pay back, though? Do you think he's going to do something?
I don't think so. I kind of mentioned it.
He doesn't race like that.
Yeah.
The only payback I see him doing is maybe giving Kyle Busch or because earlier this year, or Truex a little bit of a harder time when they try to pass him if he's a lap down, similar to the way Logano has to Chase after Bristol earlier this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's the most I can see, because Chase doesn't strike me as a driver that would intentionally wrecked somebody. Granted, you'll have people who will say, what about Canada 2013 between him and Ty Dillon? That, if you go back and watch the angle of entry both drivers had, neither of them were going to make that corner.
No.
So I don't know what they're talking about with that.
No, I think the only kind of payback I see Chase Elliott doing is maybe that meme that's been floating around where there's 2 more JGR drivers that have been banned from the Dawsonville pool room, right?
Yeah.
All right, so looking at this back. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, he did get, if there's going to be anything, we know what he did to Denny Hamlin and Phoenix in 2017. Something minor like that, where Seth kind of mentioned it, just making it tougher to get around him. Maybe a little bit of contact. Denny's tire ended up going down, and it was this big thing. But I think it would be pretty subtle. I really don't think he has many drivers on his "don't mess with me" list. And I certainly don't think it's Truex. I mentioned his reputation in the sport. It's kind of anecdotal that he got into him. It's not something Martin does regularly, so I think it's water under the bridge for him.
Definitely. All right, well, let's talk about playoffs then. So first, who do you guys think benefited the most from this weekend with their playoff hopes? I think we have one driver already on our list.
Austin Dillon, for sure.
Yeah. And
everybody, I mean, look, Harvick, ooh, okay. As if he didn't have a gazillion other points already. I'm telling you, look, his Achilles heel is going to come in, the next round and then the round after that before we get to Homestead. I could see him imploding before that happens. I hope it doesn't happen. I really don't. I'm not wishing bad luck on Harvick. He's a nice enough guy on some days, but seriously, I don't know why I feel like he's going to have bad luck, and because he's had and part of the reason is because he's had such good luck all year long. I mean, if he had a tire going down on the last lap and still won the Southern 500, if that was true, when does where is that lucky horseshoe at? Because he needs to make sure he's got it.
Yeah.
Now, granted, while you guys are saying Austin Dillon, I'm actually going to point to somebody else who had a good day. Alex Bowman, he actually earned the second most points in the Southern 500. He finished 6th. He probably would have been further up, but he had issues on pit road that marred him mid-pack, and with the way the package is, it's so difficult to pass at times that he really got stuck where he was. But at the same time, I don't think anyone really talked about him before Darlington with the playoffs starting. Now he's sitting 5th on the playoff grid. He has about a 20-something point gap over the cutoff. So that race may have benefited him more than people realize.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll probably go William Byron. William Byron, he's quite the run he's on so far. Just a few weeks ago, I mean, he was barely scraping into the playoffs and had no top 5s on the year. And now he's got a win. Obviously, he's in the playoffs. He's sitting above the cut line, and he's managed to put together 3 straight top 5s, and that's a career high for him. So I'm not going to say I'm sold on him to make it to the round of 12 just yet, but I feel way more confident than I did coming in. I mean, I remember the first Dover race, he was really struggling, and I think that hit him really hard. And him and Chad Knaus really came back that second day, and they taught me something, because I thought it was Jimmie's position at that point. And it was on the win Daytona, and he, snuck inside the top 5 in Darlington with the top 2 bumping out. But I think seeing him peaking at this point in the season, it's the perfect time to do it. We saw how great Bowman was early. I was doing that for you. But we saw how well Bowman was doing earlier this year. I mean, he dominated the Coke 600, won Auto Club. He almost won the first Darlington race back. But now he's been quiet for a while, and he's starting to pick it up. But Blaney, another one, huge. He's had such a tough year all over the place. But Byron, it was kind of the opposite. He's been quiet all year, then right here he's starting to get into a rhythm. And when it comes to him going forward in the playoffs, it could be a perfect time for 2014.
Yeah. No, and those were the three drivers I was thinking of picking. But the fourth one I had is actually Joey Logano. He was not supposed to finish third. I mean, you look at that car. No, he probably should have finished down where Elliott and Truex finished. But that's what a championship team does. They figure out how can we take a car that's supposed to finish down here and sneak our way into stealing as many points as possible. And with a combination of just getting the right chances and the right caution flags and the right timings on pit stops and all that stuff, and just being in the right position at the right time, they very, very, very quietly finished in third place this past weekend and took away really the third or fourth most points. So they definitely salvaged a day that should have probably cut out a lot of their cushion to take them further into the playoffs. So big kudos there to Logano and obviously Dylan, Byron, Bowman.
Points.
Yeah, tied for fourth most with Austin Dillon. So
yes.
Yeah, that was they shouldn't have finished there, but that was a good job by that team to salvage some points. So let's talk about the opposite now. Who do you guys feel lost from this round with their playoff hopes? Zach.
Blaney. Sorry.
I'll probably.
No, that's okay.
I'll probably have to go against Jerry's championship pick and pick De Benedetto, Matt, the 21. I've been overall pretty disappointed with him this year. I didn't have high expectations or high numbers in my mind, but I didn't think playoff chances were going to come down to Daytona. I thought he was going to be fairly well into it. I did expect maybe one win this year, but I didn't think top 10s were still going to be considered like good days for him.
It's still early. I mean, he could still get a win. You know, I mean, it's
Sure.
early. He's got some good tracks coming up, and you know,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna be down on him. I just don't see it now. You know,
It'll be a shocker is my point. Like, he hasn't been showing that winning speed. You know, if he does win, it'll be like a Las Vegas situation where people pit, he ends up front, and he gets it done. But right now, how this 21 team is now, I mean, 5 straight finishes outside the top 10. That's his worst streak of the season.
Well,
It's
we
quite
could
the
get
opposite
fog.
of some other guys.
we could get
Fog?
fog. We could get fog. Okay. There's any number of reasons why he could win, but I mean, we could get fog.
Justin Haley can win again.
And what I want to say, because about the event that also applied to the person who I think struggled the most at Darlington, Blaney, both of them excel at Bristol. And both of them ran well at Bristol earlier this year. Blaney until he got caught up in an accident, and DiBenedetto until he had a part failure. Both were running inside the top 5. So they could very easily pull a Hail Mary at Bristol and win the race and advance to the round of 12. Granted, it would probably be more likely for Blaney than it would be for DiBenedetto, only because, honestly, Team Penske is a little more up there compared to the Wood brothers. But that being said, that's probably their best chances. I was actually looking because I wrote a piece on Bowman. I wrote a piece on Blaney for Darlington, and I was actually looking at their average finishes. For Blaney, he doesn't even have a top 20 finish at Richmond. DiBenedetto, I think he has one. I think it was in the 95 last year. Outside of that, the two of them, they excel at Bristol. It's just a matter of sealing the deal there.
Yeah, I think Richmond might be even more important for them because if they don't win, you got to keep yourself in a position where without winning Bristol, you can still make it into the playoffs. And as you said, Richmond's a tough track for them. And I mean, just looking at how important stage racing is, Martin Truex Jr. earned the same amount of points as William Byron. And Truex finished 22nd this past weekend, and Byron finished 5th. That's 2 stage wins. That's what that does for you. So
I'm going to make a prediction for this weekend at Richmond. And that is that the bad luck that Kyle Busch has had is going to dissipate, and I predict he's going to win that race.
You said that last weekend. I feel like it's one of those picks where you just, if you pick it every weekend, you're eventually going to get it right.
Maybe.
If you pick it, he will win.
If I pick it, it'll win. No, I actually thought Kurt was going to win this past weekend at Darlington for a long time. I thought he was. I thought he had a fast car and could have pulled it off. But I do. I think Kyle is going to pull this out, and he's going to get a win. He's going to advance, and he's going to be battling there towards the end. So we'll see what happens. But I could be wrong. Stranger things have happened.
Now, like I was saying, as far as Blaney's struggling, because I do want to touch on it. Pre-race, he and his Team Penske team were penalized for improperly mounted ballast, a 5-pound bag in the trunk, essentially, that was meant to simulate, according to the team, fluid movement of some sort.
Yeah.
That put him behind the 8 ball because it was 10 driver and owner points. So he immediately went from having, I think, about 8-point cushion to being 2 points behind. And with where he finished after 2 flat tires and damage from Corey LaJoie on a restart incident, he only earned 3 points even though he finished 24th. So,
yeah,
not what you want if you're a playoff driver.
Definitely. Yeah, it'll be interesting going into these next few rounds because you've got 5 drivers that are 10 points above the cutoff line, and then you've got 2 drivers that are 17 points below the cutoff line, and both of them can very easily win at these 2 short tracks coming up. So these next 2 rounds are going to be very crucial for those 9 guys to make sure they steal as many points as they can, like Logano did. So
now, just one thing I do want to touch on real quick is there's also the trucks there. It was their first race in, I think, 9 years at Darlington.
15. Oh, no. I thought you were talking Richmond. Sorry.
I'm talking Darlington. And,
9 years, yeah.
Yeah, 9 years. And Ben Rhodes stole that victory after Sheldon Creed's team decided it would be a good idea to pit going into overtime.
And he got penalized for going too fast.
Yes.
Oh, man.
They did not want to win.
Just adding insult to injury there.
Yeah.
I think he ended 18th. Yeah, 18th after all that. Yeah, not a good look for them. But Ben Rhodes, that's actually Ford's first Truck Series win at Darlington.
I missed that race because my wife had me doing errands and stuff. The happy wife is a happy life type thing. So, yeah, I actually missed the entire Truck Series race.
Well, for the most part, Sheldon Creed and Brett Moffitt dominated. Go figure. It's been a GMS Invitational this season from what it seems like, except either Creed is always winning and Moffitt is always second, or the team is figuring out ways to let a victory slip away.
I do want to talk about one other playoff scenario. And that is the fact that in the Monday Night Racing Kickin' the Tires League, there is no Kickin' the Tires car competing for the championship. Now we know that I, who race in this league, was never a competitor to win the championship or even make the playoffs. I get disqualified for my engine shutting off. But you, Seth, you were like got eliminated.
I was leading.
Got wrecked under caution by Ford Martin.
Well, I was leading going into overtime, and got spun with a little contact from Jeff Green. Had to use the last fast repair, restarting the back. Second overtime, I thought I avoided the wreck, and then Jason Keffer turned down to avoid it and sent me flipping. So either way, I was going to have required repairs, and so it was not going to end well either way.
But how did you end up out of the race?
Well, I did not have steering or much steering at that point.
Oh man.
So Ford, to a certain point, didn't know where I was going. I should have said that I had that much damage, but in the end, Ford hooked me under caution, and I barreled a second time in a straightaway.
I just was clarifying to make sure that what had happened. And I'm not bitter about this at all over something else that happened. Happened earlier in the race. I'm actually not concerned about you getting out. No, look, I can joke about it. I can have fun with it.
Yeah.
Some people take this way too seriously.
I mean, when it first happened, I was pissed, but after about 15 minutes or so, I cooled off, so to speak, and
you got ready for your post-race interview.
What post-race
interview? I watched. Look, I watched the race. Yeah. I sat here DQ'd watching the race the whole time, and shooting shots every time y'all had a caution. So, and trust me, my caution or my wreck had nothing to do with the rest of the things that happened on the track, because y'all apparently could not drive radical cars at Texas Motor Speedway.
Well, we had I think 2 15-lap runs that were under green, which for radical at Texas Motor Speedway, the oval, considering it's essentially more like Talladega than Texas, is actually kind of impressive. Granted, we still wrecked and the caution just didn't wave.
I don't think you completed 2 laps in a row in the final 10. So
that I unfortunately
haven't completed any laps for quite a few weeks now. So
where have you been? Where have you been?
Oh my gosh, I haven't been able to race for a while.
They're going to throw me out of the league. Just to clarify, if you have not seen your text messages and Twitter DMs, they're going to kick me out of the league after the firestorm I started. So, I mean, the private, the sub-channel DM that's not the main Monday Night Racing chant, it's fire. It is lit right now. So, I've been reading it.
Moving on. I do want to say at least some iRacing related stuff.
Yes, please.
Monday Night Racing League is going to have a second season in the winter.
Nice.
They announced that earlier today. Last night was the NASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series at Darlington, which is usually one of their cleanest races. The most cautions they previously had was 2. Last year they went caution-free. Last night they had 8 cautions. And that's why I finished writing at 1:30 in the morning.
Is this what happens when I'm not in the races? You guys just screw it all up.
Oh, it was a disaster. But Zach doesn't know what's going on because Zach doesn't have a sim. I'm gonna have to buy him a steering wheel and everything and set it up.
I'll totally do it.
I mean, I'm gonna have,
I'll give you my address.
I can get you a sim. We can, at least that way you can come have fun with us and suck just like I do.
If my sim is half of what you got, I am in.
Now for the Coca-Cola series last night, Denny Hamlin's driver, or one of his drivers, Keegan Leahy, won. And in the iRacing series, they actually started doing their own throwback race with their own throwback paint schemes. Keegan threw back to Ricky Craven. He drives a 32 because he's sponsored by Jordan Brand. The other car is 23. But
cool.
Honestly, the race for the lead was exciting. Even with all those cautions, it was him and Junior Motorsports' Michael Conley. The two of them were never more than 2 car lengths apart the entire race.
Wow.
That's crazy.
It takes some talent. It does. And, so props off to everybody. I race iRacing for fun. And I appreciate Steve and everybody giving us the opportunity to do that. And Zach, we may have to get you hooked up somehow. I'll see what I can do for you. But obviously, Justin has a setup over there. Seth, we'll all get. Maybe we'll do our own league next year, and that would be kind of cool.
Here's an idea for an episode. We can all put on our Zoom cameras, and we just have a whole episode where we show ourselves racing.
I'm okay with that. I've got
man.
I'm just sitting here
multi-camera.
trying to figure out how to do that with my rig
I've got
setup,
multi-camera angles. If y'all, I've got a switcher, so I could do a camera over here facing the screen. I mean, we can make this work.
Now,
Oh,
what
yeah.
was Daniel Suarez's excuse that his dog got on his lap or something, and that's why he wrecked somebody? Can't have
Yeah.
that excuse anymore if you're on camera.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And then
he had
Denny
that-
Hamlin's daughter grabbed the remote and
Oh, that
oops.
was
it-
oops. That was epic.
You can't hide that stuff
Yeah.
if you're on camera.
Well, at least for the Coca-Cola series last night, there might be two drivers or a driver sitting out in Vegas in 2 weeks because there was two drivers decided to have a demo derby on the backstretch about a third of the way into the race. So even though, yes, it does take talent, there are moments where the red mist, so to speak, clouds their judgment.
They remember it's just a sim.
Look, I at the end of the day, it's fun. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I know the Coca-Cola series and they're racing for something and stuff like that. But for our stuff, this is fun. I
Yeah.
enjoy it. And I'm probably going to race after we finish this tonight. I'm probably going to jump in and I'll probably host a race somewhere just so that people come race and have a good time, because that's, to me, what it's all about. That's why I bought this whole setup, is so that I could do something in racing and have fun. And
Talking about a night race real quick. We got the truck race tomorrow, and that is the end of their regular season. So
yes,
we got to make
Chris
sure we
Knight is
talk
already
about that.
Chris Knight is already in Richmond. I talked to him earlier. If you don't know who Chris Knight is, catchfence.com. He is truck series guru, and he actually has some very good contacts in that series. He went up to Richmond today, and he will be doing the everything for the racing tomorrow. Zach, when do you get up there for the action?
I leave tomorrow. It's a
Okay.
night race tomorrow, so I got plenty of time, and I'll be there through Saturday night. So really,
Okay.
Richmond's an awesome place. It's gonna suck not having the fans there, of course, but I always look forward to the racing and just the sunsets. I mean, it's just a beautiful track. I say it's the most beautiful night track that we have in terms of tracks that look great at night. So I cannot wait to see it.
Well,
So-
we've got two great reporters going to be there. For us, you're going to be there taking care of everything. And I really appreciate you stepping in, because I've, obviously the COVID thing and traveling and with scheduling, it's been a lot easier for you to do that than me to be on the road as I usually am. And Justin, we're getting things worked out for you guys to be in Vegas, Seth for Martinsville, Matt at Bristol. So I appreciate all the hard work you guys do covering the action and making sure that we can do that. But thanks, for anybody that's watching this, this between tonight and tomorrow, tune in, because you'll have to follow it on our Twitter, because Zach doesn't do Twitter. So you'll have to read it. You'll have to read the Kickin' the Tires Twitter, so you'll know what's going on.
If the fans don't know, the way the Truck Series playoffs work is you have 10 drivers advance, and then 2 drivers are eliminated every round. So unlike the Cup, where it's 16 drivers and then 4 are eliminated every round, so only 10 are going to advance. Here's the kicker that really caught me off guard. You've got Tyler Ankrum and Todd Gill, which are really, those 2 drivers are separated by just 4 points. And they are only over Derek Cross by 10 points. After that, it's not really a points race. But here are the other names below the cutoff line. And all of these drivers know how to win and can very easily win and shake up this whole playoff picture. You've obviously got Derek Cross there in 11th. Then you've got Rafael Lassard, who's actually been quite impressive in that 4 truck early on. Tanner Gray. Stuart Friesen down in 14th. Johnny Sauter down in 15th. Ty Majeski. And then all the way down in 19th and 20th, you've got Jordan Anderson and Spencer Boyd. So,
well, at least for Majeski, he is not running the 45 this week. He's not on the entry list. It's Trevor Bain in place of him. And Johnny Sauter, to be fair, I think if he didn't have all those penalties, he might be at least within points distance of the top 10 instead of having to win tomorrow night.
Johnny's had some bad luck. He just he's had some
Yeah.
bad luck. There's no other way around it. So, and I know Johnny very well. He is unhappy. He loves racing at ThorSport. He loves doing what he's doing, but he's snake bit this year. And as soon as this is season, 2020 has not been good to him. 2021, he's going to come back with a vengeance if he gets a chance.
I definitely think he will. It's just a matter of time. As far as the others, Friesen, they completely basically reset their team at the beginning of the year because they went from being aligned with GMS, which they were essentially using GMS trucks, to being aligned with KBM and having to build everything from scratch to a certain point. So just with that huge change and the different aerodynamic philosophies and stuff like that, that's essentially why they've been off the pace for the most part. Tanner Gray and Rafael Lassard, Derek Krause, they're all rookies. So I'm not too surprised that they're not up there as of yet. Although if they don't get up there, that would lock off the Rookie of the Year battle to be between Zane Smith and Christian Eckes, who are currently inside the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to make one clarification. I said, if Johnny gets the chance to come back, this is what Johnny's told me, that he wants to end his career at ThorSport. I don't know what his contract status is, so I don't know if the reason I said it the way I did, I don't know if he has the next year or if they're in negotiations right now. I truly do not know the answer to that, but I do know that he has told me he wants to race out his career at ThorSport in the trucks.
Yeah, just looking at that battle, a lot of these drivers, I feel like they're just at different points, or just how they've been running all year. It's kind of just all over the place. I mean, you look at Derek Krause, I feel like he's been pretty good this year. You know, he came from a few years in the ARCA East and West Series, and he's been doing well this year. He nearly won this past weekend. He had that mess up off of turn 2 on that final restart. We spoke to him earlier today in a media availability, and he said it was probably the best restart of his life until he got to turn 2, and then he washed up and then lost the race, and he's got to be killing himself over that. You think about Jordan Anderson, who nearly won Daytona. He's got to be thinking about that. But I mean, like Lassard, man, he was really struggled those opening 10 weeks. I mean, he didn't have a single top 10, and now this past month he's gotten 4 plus the top 5. So I really don't have him picked to make the playoffs here right at the end. I think Friesen, he's been super down all year. I mean, Seth mentioned the GMS deal from last year, and now this year they're kind of doing their own thing. And Friesen spoke about it, and I mean, it's definitely an independence that team feels, but they knew it was going to be tough, but not this tough. I mean, they're working from ground level, and they have just a lot of work to do probably over the off season if they can't get it turned around here at the end. So I would say it's probably going to stay the same. I think Ankrum and Todd Gilliland, he's been showing some great pace. Gateway, which is sort of similar to Richmond. I guess they're quite a bit different, but Gilliland had one of the best races of his truck career, even back in KBM. So I think that playoff picture is probably staying the same right now.
All right, we've been talking for almost 2 hours, and I don't want to edit any more video. So
somebody got a text message.
Yeah, no, she actually started walking in the door.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I'm like, no. So you want to just close it out, Jerry, and then we'll call it.
Obviously, this weekend, big weekend at Richmond Raceway, and Zach's going to be there covering everything for Kicking the Tires. We'll be covering from remotely from afar, thanks to COVID. Big thanks to everyone who supports us, and we're trying to bring on some other sponsors, and maybe one of them will pique your interest in the future. So hopefully we can give those guys a shout out officially, working on some backroom deals and seeing what we can come up with. But thanks again for everybody tuning in for our second show. I know we're a little bit rough. We'll get this smoothed out, and hopefully you'll continue to watch.